kind of bringing us back and kind of looking at our trajectory as per our handy dandy calendar. What we just finished officially is we finished our connective tissue. Okay, so that included the connective tissue and then the muscle and nervous tissue. That's exercise 8, which you'll find today. So February 12th is that's what we needed to finish today. And so we have time. And so what I want to do is just keep going so that we can do the integumentary system. That is going to be exercise 9. So we finished exercise 8. Awesome. We're good to go. So what I want to do today, and I'm not going to rush, I think we can do it, but yes. So where we're going to be here is page 53 in terms of the list that we have to go through. And then, yeah, and then then we'll talk a little bit about the images. But first, I kind of want to go through the images first. So we are on page 53. And a lot of this is going to be kind of straightforward. And I'm going to do a lot of repetitive stuff because we have the skin model, which is the model, and it's on page 50. So that's just the model, like the bone model type of thing. And then we have the skin slide, which is the scalp specifically, because that's where we have the hair follicle, the bigger hair follicles. So that's what we're going to see today. So there's going to be some overlap, as you can imagine. I'm going to start with the slide first. I don't know. I just will. That way we can do a lot of repetition. You can get all the areas. And then when we move over to the model, you should pretty much know where most of it is. All right, so let's do this. So it's true you are not going to see an illustration, but just as a reminder, when we talk about the integumentary system, we're talking about the cutaneous membrane, specifically the epidermis, right? The very thin upper layer, right? And then the dermis, which is underneath that. Now, I recommend if you have your textbook, or maybe your atlas, I don't know where in the atlas, but I recommend you open it up so that you can refer to this image again, because you want to have a good reference point as we're going through this. We're going to go through this as we normally do. Lots of repetition, lots of slides, lots of engagement, but having that kind of consistent image to reference is a good idea. Page 16 in the atlas. Thank you, Jennifer. Awesome. Good job. See, it's a team effort. Yes, good job. So that's perfect. So having that image is going to help reinforce it. It's just kind of my point. So again, we went over this in chapter 5 because that was the integumentary system in lecture. And then again, you've got the really thin epidermal layer up here, which is epithelial tissue. And then you have the layer called the dermis, which is the vast majority of what you see here in the cutaneous membrane, or the integument, or the integumentary system, right? They're kind of analogous terms. Basically all the same. And then here we have 2 layers within the dermis. We have the papillary layer, and then we have the reticular layer. The papillary layer, which we'll see again and again, so don't worry, but it's really just the top part here, right by the epidermis. So if you think about this from the perspective of connective tissue and epithelial tissue, it should come as no surprise that the papillary layer is areolar connective tissue. And even though for the whole epithelial labeling, we just asked for connective tissue, right? We didn't need you to tell the type. You knew that connective tissue is actually areolar connective tissue. And that's the case here. So the papillary layer of the dermis is quite small. It connects to the basement membrane, and it's areolar connective tissue, right? It's a loose connective tissue. And we're going to see later, but these dermal ridges here, we have the papillary, we have the dermal ridges, which are the bottom, and basically the bottom and the top. So we have part that's in the epidermis, and then we have the dermal ridges here, which pretty much make up the papillary layer. All right, awesome. So page 154. Excellent, guys. So that layer of the papillary layer, very thin, right up there by the epidermis, and it consists of areolar connective tissue. The vast majority of the dermis here is going to be reticular layer, and it consists of dense irregular connective tissue, right? Lots of, here we've got the follicle, we've got the root, but again, we just need a couple of the things, so we don't want to go crazy. But we do have the receptors that we're going to talk about at the end, right? So we've got one here, and I don't see the Pacinian, but it should be up here. It's basically going to be in one of these ridges, the Pacinian corpuscle, which we'll talk about later. Okay, so again, we're going to see a lot of repetition. We're going to start out with the slide, and then we're going to move into the model. Okay. Okay, awesome. So again, just as a reminder, we've got 5 layers of the epidermis, right? What we care about because of this image, now, make sure that you're studying whatever is focused on in lecture. But in this case, we only care about 2 parts. We care about the stratum corneum and the stratum basal, right? And technically on the slide, we only care about the epidermis, right? So we're going to talk about the stratum corneum and stratum basal in the skin model. But just as a reminder, the stratum corneum is the top layer. This is about 20 layers thick of dead skin cells. And these simply hold the protein keratin, right? For friction, abrasion, prevent against abrasion, and for waterproofing. Cool. And so that's what we have for the top part. The vast majority, okay, then let's go to the bottom before I continue. The bottom layer, which is small, it's very small, is called the stratum basal, okay? And it's a very, very thin layer. You can't really tell it apart. You just know it's the very thinnest layer of the epidermis. The vast majority is actually the spinosum. So most of the kind of chunk of the middle chunk of the epidermis is called the stratum spinosum. But guess what? If you look at either of these lists on skin model or skin slide, page 53, there's no stratum spinosum. So we're not worried about that, right? Top and bottom is what we're looking at for the slide. We don't even need it for the model. We don't even need it for the slide. We just need to know epidermis, right? Which we're going to go over. Okay, so here's the first example of my slide. Everything's labeled, right? Pick this up at Google because that's great. It does the work for me. So here, what you want to start noticing is that this is a very highly magnified image because the epidermis is very obvious here. When you look at an image that has the epidermis, the dermis, and the hypodermis, this image is maybe 3 millimeters, 4 millimeters. So this area here, from here to here, is the epidermis, and it's quite magnified, right? And as you can see, the stratum corneum is a pretty thick layer. Although we don't look at this specifically, you can also see that the stratum spinosum is going to take much of the bulk of the layers here. And then the stratum basal is like literally you write a line, like you just put a line there. Not in red, though, on pink. Please don't do that, guys. Don't put red on pink. It's so hard. They're like in the same color spectrum. Help a blind woman. And if I took off my glasses, I'd probably be legally blind. So, again, what we care about is the stratum corneum for the model and then the stratum basal. But here, what we care about is the epidermis. Okay? And here, what we can see is the dermis, or at the beginning of the papillary layer. Right? So here we've got the dermal papillae up here. Well, the dermal papillae is going to be this part, the white part that's part of the connective tissue, or dermis. All right, so that's what we have here. Here is another image. Great, this is actually from a textbook. Awesome. What we can see is we start seeing more of the dermis here, right? Still not a lot of the dermis because you would never get this much epidermis and such a little amount of dermis. Where are these? I don't know where these ones are actually. I don't know what particular part of the body these ones are from. This could be anywhere, any skin, you can find this. This is the prototype for anywhere in the body. It's exactly going to be like this, except follicles, the hair follicles. You can find this. So I don't know where any of these are actually, just skin. Pick a skin spot. So now it would probably be in an area that doesn't have a lot of hair because I don't see any follicles at all, even small ones, right? So that would be the only caveat. Otherwise, I don't know where it is. So here, what we see, this is going to be the same with every skin layer, right? Here we see the epidermis. Here's the upper stratum corneum, just the line we would make for the stratum basal. But again, in the slides, what we want, because based on our list, is this is the epidermis, and this is the dermis, right? And this area here is the papillary layer. Okay, that's the papillary layer, and this is the reticular layer. Okay, so that's what we have. Again, we're just moving through a couple different images so that you can see that. Now, here is a great image because this is the entire integument, right? Technically, the subcutaneous layer, the hypodermis, is not part of the integument, right? That's why they call it the subcutaneous, right? So here what you get is you get the epidermis. The dark red part is basically the spinosum, right? The stratum spinosum. And then you get the area underneath it, not a very large area, which is going to be the papillary layer here. And then you're going to get the reticular layer of the dermis. That's reticular layer. That's the dermis in total. That is the reticular layer. Now that's not even thick, right? That's actually not thick. That's seen on the side. So if we were to prop that up and have it just parallel like that, it would be much thinner. You're kind of seeing part of the width as opposed to the thickness. So that's kind of a little bit makes it look like it's thicker than it is. Okay, and then lastly, in this slide, what you see is the hypodermis. How do you know? Fat, adipose tissue. And when we get more magnified, you'll be able to see it. Exactly. Right, but this is everything that we see right here. And then the keratinized stratified squamous epithelium, that's going to be, let me see, keratinized stratified squamous epithelium. Oh, where do they want that labeled? Keratinized, do they want, this one won't cut it for that. This one will, none of these will cut it because they're too big, but this one. So the stratified squamous epithelium is here, right? But if they're saying keratinized stratified squamous epithelium, I have to double check, guys. Let me double check. Based on, so the reason why I'm thinking for a second is because the top layer here is, it's not technically, oh. So if we're going to call something stratified squamous epithelium, it has to be a squamous cell, right? The problem with this is that these are not cells. They're all dead, right? It's a stratified layer of dead skin cells. So the top living layer is pretty much this area here where the stratum spinosum is. So I just want to confirm for next week whether they want this area for the keratinized stratified squamous epithelium, or if they're in fact referencing the stratum corneum as the keratinized stratified squamous epithelium. I think that they're going to talk about this area right here, where the spinosum is. But let me just double check, guys. I know it's just that keratinized is kind of, it's if they didn't have the keratinized, the stratified squamous epithelium would be right here. How do you know where the division of the papillary and reticular layer is? So basically, the some stains you can see it, but basically everything underneath these ridges here, these papillary dermal ridges, this area here, it's a very small area. Just follow the ridges that are different color stain, that are connective tissue, not epithelial tissue, and then just give yourself a little bit of room. We're never going to do something like this, right? Like, we're never going to do something like this where, let me get a better slide. Let me get a slide where you can see everything. No. So, for example, we're not gonna put an arrow here where it's like, what's that? And be like, oh, we wanted the reticular layer. No, we're gonna go down here for the reticular layer. Does that make sense? Like, we're gonna go down so that it's like, there's no question, right? And then for the top, we might not go right into this papillary layer here, right? It's papillary, but we might go like just right underneath that, right? Because that's still papillary, right? But again, if it's keratinized, it's dead. Wouldn't that be the top? Okay, yes, hold on, Stephanie. Let me finish that. So then, yeah, so basically, wherever you have the mounds that are connective tissue, these are all connective tissue here, and just a little bit below it, right? That's about roughly the papillary layer. But again, we're going to go here for the reticular layer, and then we'll just go a little bit up higher for that. So there's a big difference. So the issue here that I'm having, Stephanie, is that if you read the entire thing, it says keratinized stratified squamous epithelium, right? So the layer of skin, so the stratified squamous epithelium is easy, right? It's going to be the area that has layers of squamous epithelium. What's that? It's right here, right? Keratinized means that there's keratin in it. Well, there's keratin in all keratinocytes, right? So keratinized is dead, but it's not stratified squamous epithelium, because stratified squamous epithelium is not dead cells. So that's why it doesn't say dead. It says keratinized stratified squamous epithelium, and that's my issue. Yeah. And sorry, guys, I know it's like, I hate to be like, oh, I gotta check, but I do, because again, keratinized cells, yes, I can say that the stratum corneum these are keratinized cells, but they're not cells, they're sacs, right? Because the cells are living and sacs are dead. And so there's a difference. So when I look at this cell and when I look at this and I see keratinized stratified squamous epithelium, well, stratified squamous epithelium has to be living cell. So technically it has to be in this area. I just want to make sure that that's what they want. That's what they're looking at. Because keratinized means it has keratin in it. Well, they all have keratin in it unless you're a melanocyte, right? A keratinocyte makes up the vast majority of cells here. So even though they're called squamous cells, the particular name in this particular tissue is called a keratinocyte, which you learned in lecture. So based on that stratified squamous epithelium is not dead cells. That cannot be. And all keratinocyte, and the cells here are pretty much all keratinocytes based on the definition. I would say that the stratum spinosum area is where we're going to label keratinized stratified squamous epithelium. But I don't want to mess you up, so I want to double check on that. Does that make sense, guys? That was a lot. I just need to double check. And again, because, that's where I'm going to go. So I have to make sure, I got to make myself a note, double check with my folks, and then there's no rush on this. I mean, we can do it next week. So I just got to double check on that. Because I feel strongly, but I could be wrong, right? Maybe they're like keratinized. No, it's the stratum, corneum. And I'm like, okay. This picture's in the lab book because they don't look like this to me. Yes, it's okay because remember guys, I have a particular methodology here. I'm bringing you through an idea here, right? So don't go directly to comparing and contrasting with the lab book. I want to give you guys an idea of what you should be seeing and then be able to see it, right? Exactly. Thanks, Terralyn. I appreciate it. All right, so page 53, confirm keratinized. Sorry, guys. I got all my little sticky notes on my desk. All right, so I'll get back to you on that. Don't want to be confusing. But again, what I'm doing here is I'm building your knowledge so that when you look at a slide, you can say, I know where I am, right? Because basically, you've got to be able to tell on the slide what's epidermis and what's dermis. And right now, I hope you can say, epidermis, dermis, boom. So when you know, you know. I know. You're welcome. You're all trying to slap me through the screen. But yeah, so here, what is, I don't even like this, forget it. Okay, what part of the cutaneous membrane is this? Just generally, what's that? Epidermis. Boom, 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 boom. Awesome, good. All right, what part of the cutaneous membrane is this? That's it. What part roughly is this area, just underneath the little dermal papilla there, and including the dermal papilla? What's this little area right there? Papillary layer. That's right. Now, give me what the name is called on page 53. Papillary layer, okay? Now, what is this layer here? The vast majority of what you see here. Reticular. That's it. If you can get that, so far, we're fine. Now, don't call it the fibrous layer, although, yes, it is fibrous connective tissue, dense irregular connective tissue, specifically. They don't ask for that here. They want to know, is it the papillary layer, the reticular layer, the dermis, the epidermis? What they'll do with this, presumably, is they'll put a bracket around it, right? If the whole thing is bracketed, papillary layer, reticular layer, it's dermis. If they are separated, then obviously they want individual. Oh, don't worry about it, guys. It's okay. All right, awesome. So again, we're just building our visual kind of acuity here. Here, there's a basement membrane, right? Because there's an epithelial layer, right? The epidermis is epithelial, and then the dermis is connective tissue. So here's the organ that supports that. Now here, what you're going to see is basically a lot of the to about here, maybe a little bit lower. You see most of the papillary layer. Oh, go back. Where? More? What number? This is it? Okay. So, yeah, so this one isn't just another image. Again, I purposely have numerous images here because I want you to look and say, I know right away that's skin. How do I know that? Because I know I have this epithelial layer that kind of looks like squamous. To be honest, the squamous you have in class is much nicer. Like, these are squamous, but, you know, they don't look like pretty pretty squamous, right? You know what I mean? Like the nice flat ones, these look kind of a little bit more, but again, we're not asking for, just know that this is squamous epithelium, and recognize that what we're looking for is we're looking for the epidermis and the dermis right now. All right, so again, what are we looking here? Here's the papillary layer here. There's the bottom area of those epidermal ridges there. And this is papillary. This is going to be the epidermis. This is reticular. Gloria, go for it.
So I don't know if this is a stupid question or not, but
Nope.
where would you be able to identify the free surface on there?
So on this one, that's not a stupid question. That's a great question. You'd have to identify it on the corneum, or it'd have to be on the stratum corneum. So
So
if
on
we
the
were,
image that you were just on, you wouldn't be able to do it, right?
no, you wouldn't. Actually, I kind of take it somewhat back, because so the problem with the epidermis is this. Remember that the free surface technically means an area that's not attached to anything else. So that means the stratum corneum would be that. But whether or not that cell has to be living or not, I don't know. Do you know what I'm saying? So I wouldn't worry so much about the free surface when we get to the system like the integumentary system. I would just think about it when you're thinking about an individual layer of epithelial tissue where that tissue itself, living, does not attach anywhere. Because as you can see, the stratum corneum puts kind of a wrench in this because it's all dead, right? So technically just a layer of tissue that does not attach to anything. So think about the free surface more just with the tissue we talked about, epithelial, etc. When we get into the organ system, just think about this system more as it's presented here. Gloria, does that make sense? Because it gets weird and tricky with this whole dead layer of cells. Then it's like, oh man. I'm like, oh no. All right, awesome. Okay, so again, just a couple images. Now here, all you can see here is the subcutaneous layer. And you only know that because I'm telling you that. I mean, this could be any fat layer, right? But here are beautiful images of adipocytes, right? Adipose tissue. And that's the tissue that you have in this subcutaneous / hypodermis layer. Okay, guys? Really beautiful example. Boom. All right. And this, look at that. That's an artery. So beautiful. That's smooth muscle. And these are little tiny arteries. Oh. Anyway, I know. Oh my gosh, it's so beautiful. Anyway, sorry. So AMP2 is going to be really cool for you guys. And maybe you guys will be in lab, which would be great. It's so fun. Okay, you're in lab, but you know what I mean, on campus. All right, awesome. Boom, let's go. All right. So now we're starting to add something that's going to be important. A hair follicle, okay? Now, this is a pretty big hair follicle, as many of them are. And what's really interesting is that I want you to notice that this hair follicle goes all the way into the hypodermal layer. That root of the hair follicle is like super deep. So it's really kind of interesting. We know it goes well into the dermis, but some of them go right into the hypodermal layer. Is this normal? Yeah, it probably is. Now, also, I don't know what animal this is. It could be a rat, so possibly not so far in humans. Do you see what I'm saying? Yeah, so I'm honestly not 100% sure. Without a doubt, the follicle definitely goes deep into the dermis, without a doubt. So yeah. Now, a couple things I want you to notice, and this is going to kind of blow your mind. This is the epidermis. That's it. This is the reticular layer. Yeah. I'm sorry, I called it the reticular layer. This is the papillary layer. Sorry, my fault. Papillary layer for the top there. So when you pluck a hair out, you can see the white root, what that is. Okay, so if you pluck it out and you get the root, yeah, you can. Yes. So you can see it tends to stain darker. The epidermis is super flippin' small. So this image here reinforces that. Tiny, tiny top here. That's why I wanted to give you a couple different views of what the epidermis is, because you can't see it when you magnify it like that. Will they have animal on this? Will they have animal on the test slides or be human? I'm almost positive it's not human because you have to have someone that's dead because you have to slice their skin. So it's not like we can just pull out a hair. We gotta actually take the scalp. So yeah. Now, could they take a cadaver? Possibly, but it's expensive. It's just cheaper. I know, sorry. You asked. I know. Science moves forward. It's not funny. But I have a cat that I love dearly, and I also dissect cats. So I don't know. I mean, I love my cat. I know. It's really nice in person. So is my cat. Anyway, sorry guys. I know. It's okay. Let's move on. I don't want to hurt anyone's feelings. But I wanted you guys to see. This is just the first image, guys, right? I'm easing you into this. So I don't want you to feel like you got to compare and contrast right away. Different approach here. I just want you to start visually recognizing where we are because remember, this is the first organ system. Woohoo! Up until now, we just talked about individual tissue, right? But this is the first one where we actually have two or more tissue types. And here we technically have connective tissue and epithelial tissue. Now, we will see that we're going to add nervous tissue, right? We're not talking about the muscle yet, but we do have nervous tissue in here, which means this is a full-fledged organ system, right? So we're going to have to expand our horizon slightly here. But again, this area up here, epidermis. Just underneath it, papillary layer. All of this is going to be reticular layer. Again, this is all dermal. And then here is hypodermal / subcutaneous. Now, they have hypodermis. So I'm just going to say hypodermis from now on. Can you tell me what I'm looking at on the bottom of page 51? Yes. Yes, I can. All right, the bottom of 51. Okay, no, I can't. Because I haven't gotten there yet. Hold your horses, because I will get there, and it'll make much more sense when I show it to you and then show it to you on there, okay? Yeah, no problem. And yes, guys, I'm moving slowly here because we can, right? We're here till 8:30? No, 8:20. 8:20. Don't worry, I will keep you longer. Yeah, Jennifer's like 8:20. Just deal with it. All right, again, just guys, follow me here. I am easing you into this. I don't expect you to be like, I see everything. I want you to get the differences at a higher magnification where all you see is that epidermal layer and a super stratum corneum, right? So again, here, just to repeat that, this layer here, that's the epidermis. That's it. Papillary layer here, and actually, you know what? I did a bad job. It's just the dark purple on the top. I went too far. That's it, guys. That's the epidermis. Papillary layer, just underneath it. That's it. You can kind of see the difference here in cell type a little bit, actually. This one's more all over the place, right? Reticular, irregular, dense irregular connective tissue. And the other one's a little bit pink. I know, it's insane. But you really understand the magnitude of that difference. Yeah, yes. The papillary layer is a little bit lighter, and it's not as all over the place. So yes, there's a little bit difference. Now again, we're not going to be like, oh, what's this? Oh, it's the reticular layer, right? That's kind of insane, right? We're going to go deeper, so you're like, oh yeah, that can't be the papillary layer. You don't have to worry about the magnification. No, we're not going to ask you that. Now, you probably wouldn't even get something at this low magnification. I'm just working you through the different ways of looking at it. We're going to get to it. So by the time we get to what you need to know, you're going to be like, I see it, right? So I'm easing you into it. All right. So I don't like this image. I'm sorry, guys. I should take it out. Okay. So here is a nice image where we've magnified it a little bit more. Why? Primarily because we've got a thicker epidermis here, right? I see more of that epidermis. And here you can see the follicle. Now in this one, boom, look at this. That is well into the hypodermis, folks. Yeah. Maybe. I honestly, I probably should have actually noticed that and written down the magnification. My fault. I took these from slides that I did. I took these from, I just picked the ones I liked. I didn't even think about the magnification. But it's higher magnification because you can see a thicker epidermal layer. And again, let's outline this. Actually, Actually, no. I've already told you. Put an X on the epidermis. Wherever you want along that whole line there, or you can just outline it. Exactly, right there. That's it, folks. That's it. Don't go any further than that. And it stains darker. So in this case, you can use that as well, right? Perfect. Now, put a little bit of a line or an X where that papillary layer is. Don't go too far. Don't go papillary layer crazy. Yep, just right underneath there, right? About definitely the thickness there. That black line, pretty good. Red line, pretty good. Green line, pretty good. Awesome. That's the papillary layer. Now, give me the reticular layer. Give me the reticular layer. Yep, it's going to be all there from that blue line. Yep, black bracket. Awesome. The bracket. Good idea there, bracket person. All right, awesome. That's it. Now, watch out. Don't go too far. Now, bracket the hypodermis. I'm going to use this terminology. Hypodermis, right? Awesome. Very good. I mean, all of that is those are fat cells. Even though you can't see them clearly, right? Like we saw in a higher image previously, that's got to be adipose tissue. It has to be. All right, you got it. Good job. I still don't like this. I'm going to take it out. All right. Now, we're still we're developing our visual acuity here, starting to recognize. We already got the epidermis, we got the dermis, we got the papillary, reticular, hypodermis. So half of it's done, right? And again, I just got to double check on that stratified squamous. We would need a much more magnified image to be able to see anything beyond the epidermis here. Now, where's the hair follicle? Shocking no one, yes. That's the hair follicle, right? Excellent. Now, this is a beautiful image, right? It just is. It's a really lovely image. Now, I want you to notice something, guys. Does anyone see anything about a hair bulb, the root, anything like that? Page 53, on the skin slide. Does anyone see anything other than hair follicle for the hair follicle? No. So, do we care for the midterm? Well, we don't care for the midterm because it doesn't say it. As long as you can see that follicle, and yes, that's the root. All of you are amazing. But guess what? I don't care because it's not on your test. Why? It's not in this list. So if we point to that, then just call it a hair follicle because that's what it is according to our list. That's right. All right, awesome. Good job, guys. So that's why we're not confused. We're focused and we're going to be methodical about studying these all in chunks. Okay, awesome. So we've already done 70% of that list. Now, do you see on the skin slide any stratum? Just the skin slide right now. Do you guys see any stratum on the skin slide? Anything about stratum corneum? Anything about a stratum basal on the skin slide? Do a quick look-see. Wait, yes? Oh, look on under just the scalp slide. Just the scalp slide, guys. No, not the skin models. Look at the heading, guys. Skin model is the left. Skin slide is the right. Page 53. Skin slide, top to bottom. Epidermis, dermis, papillary layer, reticular layer, hypodermis, keratinized stratified squamous epithelium, hair follicle, sebaceous gland, erectus pilus, sweat gland. Know them at the different magnifications. Aha! You're welcome. So, do I want to find the stratum basal on a skin slide? No. Why? Because there's no stratum basal here. But what is there? Know the accessory structure, know 40 to 100 and 400 times. So looking at it from these levels are going to be very helpful. All right, guys, awesome. That's it. Now, I don't want to show you. Should I show you here? I will. Now, do not freak out about what I'm about to show you. It is hard to see in this magnification. I'm just introducing it, okay? Are you ready? I'm going to go higher magnification. Now, there is something... So after the hair follicle, there's sebaceous gland, but we're going to get to that. Don't worry about it. I want to show you the next one, which is called the erector pilus. It's a smooth muscle, and it's right here. Now, this is very low magnified, so don't want you to be like, oh my God, I can't see it. It's okay. I'm just showing it to you now, okay? There. Now, I'm going to show you in the higher magnification, but again, it's just this red part, the erector pilus. I'm going to show it at higher magnification. Okay? And I'll show you at this magnification, but don't let it freak you out. The sebaceous gland, and you must call it the sebaceous, you can't call it the oil gland, is going to be always right beside a follicle, and it looks white because it has oil. and our stains are predominantly polar, so it's gonna look more white. It's not adipose. It's not adipose tissue. It makes me sad when students see this. When students see this image, hold on. When students see this image and they tell me that this is adipose tissue or adipocytes. No, 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 no. These are sebaceous glands. How do you know? First of all, I didn't know that this is the integument, right? Epidermis, dermis, follicle, 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 right? Exactly. Next to the thing. And here, yes, they are stratified. They honestly look like little fish eggs. And they're white. And they're right beside the follicle. Sorry, guys. Yeah, they do. Sorry, it's not gross. Have you ever seen them? I think they're so cute. I think they're so cute. But tadpole egg, yeah, maybe like tadpole eggs too. You can see little eyes before anything else. Wow. Caviar, no, I'm not going that far. I'll dissect cats, but I won't eat caviar. Plus, honestly, the money. No, give me the cash. You keep the caviar, I want the cash. I'm just saying. People like me need the money. All right, stimulus checks. Anyway, so again, this is a good image that you would show the sebaceous gland right next to the follicle, folks. Now, can you guys put a line over that erector pilus in this beautiful image? I love this image. Yep, the person who just is outlining the little, yep, that's it. Now, I want to show you guys something. It continues here. It kind of goes behind that sebaceous gland, and it's got to attach to the follicle, just in case you were wondering, what is this thing? It's right behind the gland a little bit, the sebaceous gland. Okay, guys? Now, this is very low magnification still, so don't get upset. You see these little glands here? Remember those cuboidal? Now, these are not going to end up being simple cuboidal, but those are the sweat glands. These are the eccrine sweat glands in the skin. Okay, guys? Now, it's kind of low, so I don't want you to be like, it is a little bit low magnification, right? We don't want to freak you out, so let's keep going. So each ferroclot has an erector pilus. Yeah, exactly. Now, can you see it on every single slide? Well, it depends on how clear things come out, right? So, for example, this is the erector pilus over here. That's kind of janky. This one, to me, this looks like the erector pilus, to be honest with you. Or over here. So, it just kind of depends. The pili muscle is smooth. Yes, it is. That pili. Eccrine, the same as merocrine. I think, but I have to double check. If somebody wants to jump in, because I don't want to say yes without it being correct. So take a look at, I don't like this picture, sorry. Let's go back to pretty pictures. Okay, there we go. Remember, use the pictures on, is it so hard to see on page 51? Yeah, we're going to get there. I know Dariel's like, get to page 51. We are going to get there. Don't worry. So I just want to see something. Eccrine sweat glands and merocrine. I just got to double check, guys. Okay. The sweat glands are simply, they can be further class. Yes. Yes. So it looks like merocrine and eccrine might be synonymous. So I would say an eccrine is a merocrine gland, because the merocrine, remember we have the holocrine gland, the apocrine gland, and the merocrine gland. Those are the three types. So I would say merocrine, and then the eccrine would be eccrine sweat gland. All right, good. You're welcome. Sorry, guys. Sometimes I got to double check. All right, so where are we? Yes, Dariel, we're going to get to it. We're going to get to page 51. Trust me. I just got to give you more images to be able to compare and say, oh, they don't look alike. All right, awesome. Okay, so here we are. That's horrible. Okay, so here we go. Here's my beautiful image. So you can see everything at a higher magnification, but make sure that you're familiar. Remember, if you can see the follicle, you can see the sebaceous gland, right? And if it's not a sebaceous gland, it's got to be the circular. Now, what you can tell is that these glands here, stratified cuboidal epithelium. Boom. All right, so tell me, where is the erector pilus? There it is. And it's smooth muscle. So I think it was Tanya who said it way back. He did. And that's right. It is smooth muscle. What you see is the longer, elongated muscles, right? It's awesome. It's amazeballs. Okay, guys. Smooth muscle, involuntary. It's in the, obviously, the erector pillus, right? Smooth muscle is going to be in the veins and arteries, in the vessels, right? Smooth muscle is going to be the digestive tract, right? Skeletal muscle, they're your muscles, right? Biceps, triceps, quadriceps, blah, 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 right? The extrinsic eye muscles, right? And then the cardiac, there's only one place, heart. Okay, guys, so just keep that in mind. All right, awesome. Now, circle the sweat glands. Now, again, all we ask for are sweat glands. Now, these are called sudoriferous glands as well, regardless of how they're broken down. The technical name is sudoriferous. I'm a little surprised they don't ask for that. Just like sebaceous gland is an oil gland, sudoriferous glands are the sweat glands. All right, that's it, guys. Awesome. So now I feel comfortable going to page 51. Are you guys ready? Now you got a little bit of context, right? So on page 51, you should be able to, the top part, you should be able to find the epidermis, the papillary layer, and the dermal layer, the dermis, the reticulate. Let me say it again. On page 51, you should be able to find the epidermis, find the papillary layer and the reticular layer of the dermis, and honestly, you cannot see the hypodermis in this image. I can't. On page 51, the big image on the top. However, you can see the pinkness of the sweat glands. Wait. So I would stick, this is not a good image. Technically, all the pink glands are pink, but I would go with the ones that look like circles, that look like donuts. So that's what I would go with on that image. The hair follicles, they're really janky, but you can see them. There's one in the middle. And for the erector pillus, God, I hate this image. Sorry. So the hair follicles in the middle, and I kind of see, if you look to the right, I just don't like this image. I'm looking for a good erector pillus. There's kind of one, the follicle to the right that looks like it's dark green in the middle. There is an erector pillus that's kind of off to the side to the left, but it's really skinny. I don't like this image very much. I like my image. However, you can see there's a little tiny follicle to the left, and it's got like a green as well, like a little flame, and you can see clearly to the right the sebaceous glands. So sebaceous glands, always get it right on the follicle. Now, the bottom three images, the small one, the left one, clearly we're looking at sweat glands, right? Cuboidal, stratified cuboidal, little donuts. Boom, you're good. The middle one, they've magnified it so much, but the stain doesn't really show the nuclei of the smooth muscle that it's kind of hard to tell. But the middle one is the erector pillus on the bottom three on page 51, and you can kind of see where it's coming from if you just focus on that. But I like to see the nuclei. Call me crazy. And then the right image is clearly the fish eggs. You're welcome. Or the sebaceous gland. And that would be right up next to the follicle. So, I don't love this image, to be honest with you. But if it's a process of elimination, the sweat glands are not hard, right? Look for your kind of multi-layered cuboidal cells, right? That look like a donut. This follicle is beautiful. And these follicles you can tell. And the sebaceous gland is pretty easy. It's right beside the follicle. And then if it's not any of those, it's an erector pillus. You're welcome. Does that make sense, guys? So I think you can definitely find the epidermis, dermis, papillary layer, reticular layer, no problem. Hypodermis, no problem. Hair follicle, no problem. Sebaceous gland, no problem because you got to find the hair follicle. Erector pilus, I wish it's not a problem, but if it's not any of those things, it's erector pilus. And like I said, the sweat glands are going to be stratified cuboidal, look kind of like donuts. Gloria, go for it.
The bottom middle one, I thought at first before you said erector pilus, which makes sense now, but I thought that I thought it was a hair follicle, like a magnified piece of hair.
Yeah, I totally understand. It's because look at the hair follicles that we've seen so far. It's because you're probably thinking of a hair shaft. So the follicle in the shaft might look something a little bit like this. So remember that the shaft is the part that sticks out. The follicle is the part that's underneath in the dermis, right? And so what you see here, I'm going to show a different one. So here, this might be a good example because like I don't love these follicles, but follicle, 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 follicle. See what I'm saying? So I understand why you thought that was a follicle, but that would be more like something I would think of as a shaft, the part that sticks out. Yeah. And again, one reason the reason I don't love this is because I can't see the nuclei. Like I really can't. And that makes I can kind of make them out, right? But that's like this one you can see the nuclei on this smooth muscle here. You know, I mean Tanya was like, "Is that smooth muscle?" It's like, "Oh my gosh, yeah, it is." I'm obsessed with that. Smooth muscle. But here at a higher magnification, you can see that nuclei, and that's what it looks like. Smooth muscle has the kind of a little bit longer, elongated nuclei, and it's more parallel, right? It's really beautiful. I know I'm a dork, but it is. I know. Isn't it? Ah, I love it. That's why I'm so sad. I feel disappointed. Anyway, that's what it is, an erector pilus. So I hate to tell you that, right? But if you think about it like that, don't stress yourself out. You know what the follicle looks like. You know there's got to be a sebaceous gland right by the follicle. You know what the sweat glands look like, right? And then what else are we looking for? Obviously, you know the layers. So if it's none of those, then look at it and say, erector pilus. I really have a hard time. I just don't think you're going to confuse the erector pilus with a follicle. I mean, even here, you're like, that's a follicle. I mean, and we wouldn't do something ugly like, what's that? You know, that's not okay. You know what I mean? So it's not relevant. What is a super dark joint looking spot? Wait, where? What page? Sorry, what page? Oh, what slide? Is it here? The pretty one. I'm sorry. Oh, wait. Oh, my pretty slide. Okay, I get it. Oh, like this one here, or at a higher resolution? Can you circle it? Oh, this is part of the follicle. Here, I'll go up a couple so that you can see the whole thing. Here, right there. Oh, actually, you know what? That might not be part of the follicle, to be honest with you. No, it is. It is. It's just probably where the shaft starts to kind of come out. I don't know for sure, but see how it looks a little bit different here? It might just be where the kind of shaft comes out. Maybe. I don't know. That's all right. A little bit, Jake. Put headphones on, Emanuela. This is embarrassing. This is not family entertainment hour. Oh no! I'm only supposed to embarrass myself in front of tuition-paying students. Oh no! Oh, see, even when COVID's done, I'm gonna wear a mask outside, so nobody. But you'll all know my voice because it's so darn distinctive. Hey, wait, lady, aren't you the A&P instructor? All right, the erector pilus not here because I don't like this. Is right here. And then I'll undo it. Okay, got it, Diamond? Don't feel bad. Don't worry. Does that make sense? I know. Isn't it pretty? So, like I said, process of elimination. You know what the follicle looks like. You know what this is the follicle, right? You know what the sebaceous gland looks like. It's right by the follicle. It's white. Looks like fish eggs. Here, you know what the sweat gland looks like because it looks like it's a gland and it's stained, usually a little bit darker. This one is stratified cuboidal and it's got like a little hole, like it looks like a little donut or a little bit longer. So if you come up to something and you're like, man, I don't know what it could be, it's not that, and that, then it's going to be the erector pilus. So where does the erector pilus connect to on the other side? I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I'm not sure if it's. I don't know. I mean, I guess it has to be connected by some ligament type thing. I mean, it's smooth muscle, so it's not like a tendon. I don't know. I don't have a good answer for you, to be honest with you. I'm not quite sure. What tissue did you say they were made of? Smooth muscle. The erector pilus is a beautiful smooth muscle. So I don't really know what it's attached to be honest with you. I don't know. All right. Oh, the glands? The glands, if you look at them, you can, well, this is not a good picture. Hold on. I wish I had one that was super. So here, actually, this is it. They're just stained a little bit different color here. These are the sweat glands, and you can see that you can't see the cell membranes, but based on the orientation of the nuclei, you know it's stratified, and it's definitely not columnar, definitely not squamous. So this is stratified cuboidal epithelium. Now, I can't see the cell membrane. I cannot see the cube, so don't get upset at yourselves. What you can see is the orientation of the nuclei, and so you kind of have to say, those nuclei are way too close to be columnar, right? I definitely know this is not pseudostratified, right? And it definitely cannot be squamous, right? So you would look at this and say, stratified cuboidal. But that's because you have to take a little bit. For your test, we'd never give you this, right? We give you something that was very clear, like we did at the beginning. And we only ask for simple cuboidal. We don't ask for stratified cuboidal. Exactly. Process of elimination. All right. Awesome. All right. So that's it, guys. Oh, we're done. Crap. We're done. So we finished the scalp, which is fine. Again, we're ahead. Guys, in case I forget, please remind me, because I tried to keep both my classes on the same schedule. Remind me that we need to start with the skin model next time. But it's really straightforward. But we're done. It's 8:20. So that's it. We finished it. So guys, go study this stuff with your lecture. Get it out. Okay, guys? All right. Happy Valentine's Day, everybody.